Welcome back. Well, Namibia's National Commission on Research, Science and Technology is calling for greater use of Metascience to strengthen policymaking. We now speak to Kelvin Mubiana Katukula on how this approach can improve research quality, accountability and impact across the country. Kelvin, good evening and thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Well, to begin with, Kelvin, for our viewers who may not be familiar with the term Metascience, what exactly is it and why is it becoming increasingly relevant in today's research and policy landscape?
Thank you very much. Sometimes we academics use various terms to refer to the same thing, but in this situation, Metascience simply means, or sometimes is also referred to as science of science or research on research. It simply means the systematic study on how knowledge is produced, disseminated, and also evaluated and used. So basically, that's what it simply means. Its growing relevancy is linked to a global realization that research ecosystems must be more transparent, rigorous and accountable, especially in an era of accelerated funding, technological disruptions, and also societal demands for evidence-based policymaking. So basically, that's what it means.
Talk to us about the practical ways in which, Metascience can be used to strengthen Namibia's research as well as our innovation systems.
I think one other point that we need also to be cognizant with when we are talking about Metascience is that it mainly answers questions that include, are we doing science effectively? It applies analytical tools to study research practices, incentive structures, and also funding mechanisms, thereby enabling better governance and on science itself. So for African countries broadly, of which this now includes Namibia, or third world countries, we have a problem of limited resources. So when we implement the use of Metascience in our research, this can enable us to be able to reproduce the same results that have been carried out, or for a research that has been carried out from another part, can be of the country or somewhere else. So that brings in more of the way of not wasting resources on research, because it enables us to reproduce the knowledge that could have been reproduced in a different space.
One of the challenges that currently exist with research is the reliability and the reproducibility thereof. So how can Namibia's science ecosystem begin to address this issue through meta-scientific approaches?
Yeah, I don't know if you are aware, because Metascience is interested or focuses on how knowledge is produced and also disseminated. However, you might not be aware that in Namibia, I'm one of the researchers, or the first bibliometrician, if I may use the right term, who managed to map out knowledge production in the country, with the focus, of course, of UNAM, which was my research site. So I managed to create the first knowledge database and a comprehensive data set of knowledge production in the country. Now, hosting regional workshops and also fellowships on responsible research assessment and reproducibility can be one way that we can be able to direct how we can implement Metascience in our country. Apart from that, also participation in Pan-African mapping exercise, which of course Namibia in this particular NCRST is affiliated to a number of them, such as those listed under RORI. RORI is Research on Research Institute, which is hosting this conference that I came for in the UK, can also make us, Africa, to be able to put our views up there on how we can be able to reproduce knowledge within Africa, and also to be able to reproduce this same from different sides of the continent.
When you talk about using Metascience as a tool for dissemination of information, for the purpose of myself and of course my viewers also, give us practical examples of how this is done.
Can you repeat your question, please?
I was saying, you said that Metascience is used as a tool for disseminating of information. So I wanted to hear from you if you could give us a practical example of how this could be done.
There are several ways that this can be done to reproduce the same knowledge that can be produced, or to replicate research that has been done somewhere else. One of them that we can do is we need to be able to ensure that the knowledge that we are producing is credible. It has to be trustworthy, and also it needs to follow rigorous exercise in how knowledge is produced. So the one aspect actually that really makes it to be a little bit not be able to be reproduced is when the methodology application in the research is flawed. So Metascience comes in to see to it that the rigorous nature of the methodology that scientists or researchers are using is trustworthy, so that it does not have loopholes that can enable their research to fail to reproduce the same knowledge that they can reproduce in the site that they'll be working from. The advantages of this is also bringing much credibility to what academics are doing, because this is going to allow them not to fabricate results, because they know for sure that if results will be fabricated, then the funders can be on, like, for example, NCRST funded research. We are going to be on these academics to say, how are you utilizing the research that has been given to you? If your results cannot be reproduced in a similar setup from another perspective.
Just finally, Kevin, what message would you share with African governments and research institutions about why now is the time to embrace Metascience as a strategic priority?
I think the message is very clear. Number one, we are in the era where we have a lot of data available that researchers are using. So we are trying to see to it that as academics, we need to be credible, efficient in how we are carrying out our research. We need also to be able to legitimize our national science systems, which depends on it. Apart from that, in the time of constraint funding, of course, I know for sure that you've seen the budget allocations that you know how much NCRST has been given, even though, of course, by our mandate, we should be able to fund research in the country. But where that shortfall comes in, then this makes NCRST to be able to use the results that can be produced by me, for example, to be replicated with a lesser expense as it could have costed another different researcher to conduct the similar research altogether. So that's the most important thing. Apart from that also, as African countries, we can no longer continue being on the periphery of research. We need to see to it that we implement and embed the Metascience in our science policies, so that our research governance can see to it that we implement trustworthy research that we are going to be producing as a country. So that's one aspect that is very important. Apart from that, also NCRST involved and also the government at large, we must be able to optimize our investment in R&D. We must be able to safeguard the integrity of science processes in the country and also in our institutions of higher learning across the country. We must also be able to enhance the public value of the funded research, because if the government is giving us money that we disseminate to universities to conduct their various research, that the value of that money needs to be felt in the nature of the results that they produce from the research. Yeah. So we must be able to not allow our researchers to be fabricating results, but rather for them to be able to produce results that have the value of the money that was invested to conduct such an endeavor.
Well, Kelvin, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on the Daily Roundup. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Kelvin Mubiana Katukula from the NCRST speaking to us there. When we come back after this brief break, our conversations continue. Do stay with us.